All right, welcome back to the show. We have Josh Wilson here with us today. Josh, why don't you just introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're currently doing.
Yeah, man. All right. So my name's Josh. I kind of run two businesses. People say I'm super busy. I guess that makes me a serial entrepreneur. One side of the business is media. We focus on strategic partnerships and relationships, either to drive money and revenue for organizations that we partner with or missions that are important to me. Like for us, we spend a lot of time focused on stuff for dudes, stuff for men, stuff for frontline workers. So we do a lot in philanthropic adventures for that. And then on the other side, I have an investment company. We partner with other investment companies to help them find deals, people, and I could share some of these things later on. And I'm working on some licensure that will allow me to focus on capital for them as well. So two sides of the business. One kind of finds the opportunity. The other one funds it. So I run those simultaneously, sometimes not well.
No, that's awesome. How about we're I don't know, roughly the same age. Comic books. We grew up with comic books. How about like what's your origin story? Like tell us like where you came from, who you are, and what's your origin story from that brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, man. Thanks for asking that. So
Yeah.
comic books, man, I loved, it wasn't so much comic books. I didn't really do a lot of reading growing up, but I watched Superman. I thought
Mhm.
Superman was phenomenal. I thought he was really cool. And I thought Kill Bill, have you seen Kill Bill?
Yeah, I love those movies. Yes.
So good. When I heard his explanation of why
Oh,
Superman was the most powerful, like superpower, like superhuman, whatever, it really resonated with me. All the other super characters dressed up to hide their identity, right? And then they did stuff, and then they went back to their normal self. Superman was powerful, and his character was actually a normal human being. So he had to dress up to be like us. He had to, it's like almost like the story of God, like where he became like us, humbled himself so he could be amongst humanity. And his real person was this superhuman thing that could, destroy, but he humbled himself. So like I loved watching Superman growing up, right? I thought I was Superman for so long. I'm freaking 5'8", 170 pounds. Not Superman anymore, like knee joints, fake knees, and fake body parts. So like, but that was my dude. So, but grew up in the 80s, young kid, and then, growing up on a construction site. And fast forward to where we are through a spaghetti, crazy story. Now I work with, family offices and investment groups, and I help build and scale companies. I should not be here, right?
no, that's awesome. So how did you get into doing the family office stuff, investment stuff, building companies? How'd you get into that?
Yeah. Thanks, Kip, for asking that. Really through a lot of failures. Like I try a lot, and I have a natural gift and favor of being able to meet new people, build trust really quickly, and then kind of pull them into whatever I'm doing. Right. So that's a gift. In the past, I used it to hang out and be popular with people and bring girls to parties or whatever. Like now it's just I bring smart friends to businesses, right? So it's the same gifting, just used a lot better and much better fruit, and it doesn't get me in as much trouble. But early on, I was in construction with my dad, and I accidentally syndicated an opportunity and brought in an investor. I didn't know what I was doing. I just met a guy valet parking cars. Before you knew it, he invested in my dad, and
Wow.
that got me into the world of investing, just like that easy. I was valet parking cars, had dinner with the dude. Before you knew it, we were buying property, and instead of swinging hammers remodeling, we were developing land and building multifamily.
Oh, that's amazing. That's crazy. That's
It is
wild.
crazy. It is crazy. It's absolutely crazy, and I'm thankful for it. But with every story, there's ups and downs and heartbreaks and a lot of failures. I've had a lot of failures. I've been bankrupt. I've been on food stamps. I had to move back in with mom and dad in my late 30s because my series of poor decisions or business failures led me to the place where I couldn't provide for myself or my wife or my kids. And moving back home with mom and dad with a wife and kids, it's really tough on intimacy. And you tend to want to figure your shit out really fast so you can
Yeah.
get out of there, right? So that's a good motivator. Yeah, sex is definitely a good motivator to get out of mom and dad's house because that
Yes.
will definitely kill all forms of intimacy.
Oh gosh. That,
Yeah.
yeah. We briefly we were moving houses and it took forever to find a new one. So we actually lived with my parents for a little bit with three kids in high school. And I feel you. I'm right there with you. That is totally uncomfortable. Less uncomfortable for me, more uncomfortable for my wife. I'm like, I don't care, but I get it. I gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. So living with mom and dad, right? We both shared this part of the story. You walk downstairs and dad's in his underwear getting milk out of the fridge. And you're like, God, geez, dad, I got wife and kids. My kids are in high school or whatever. You can't do that, man. Right? He's
Yeah.
like, this is my house. I do what I want. So yeah, it's definitely a weird adventure.
Yeah. I think my wife may have seen my dad from behind with nothing on, doing something similar to that, running out of the kitchen.
Right? That will
Yes.
forever be scarred in your wife's head.
Right.
And at least she knows what you look like when you're
Right. I know.
70
That's
or
exactly
whatever.
that's exactly what she said.
It's a
Oh,
little disgusting, but
yeah.
just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, so you kind of touched on just kind of a low point. What are some high points? What are some great deals, super interesting things? Maybe one of your favorite
Yeah.
deals you ever worked on?
Yeah, really, really cool. So, going from construction, where that's all I knew, how to swing a hammer, how to lift up heavy stuff. I was in charge of demolition, not painting, not cutting, not anything that involved detail. I was in charge of breaking stuff or lifting heavy things, right? That was my jam with my dad. So going from that and then like these phases of life, like where I got exposed to like real estate and land development, and I was wow, this is a whole new world. Maybe I'm a slow learner, but then I got into like syndicating speculation and doing these different types of investments, building houses and such like that. Not at a good time in the world at 2006, so the market crashed, but some high points, man, being pretty young and looking and going, seeing the progression that I did for my family, which was incredible. Seeing my dad, and I always had this thing where I wanted to get my dad off the roof. That was like some personal mission for me. My dad was a badass dude, and he's cried to me a few times in my life. Like I got to witness it. So like I saw my dad open up and share emotion just a few times. One of them was around money. So like I had this like personal mission to make as much money as I could, which if you have that mission, like be as big or whatever, you got to take bigger risk. Hence,
Mhm.
being in venture capital and private equity and going bankrupt, right? Like that's a part of the later story. But some of the coolest things is uh, actually seeing the fruit of what my gifting is like meeting people, making a connection, and then before you know it, seeing a building there, right? And I didn't know what that value was for a really long time. And going through like coaches and working with me and showing me my values. So like I would say the coolest thing was if I look back on my story and now like helping other men, is you look back in your story and you see these like events that happen and your input happens, something big happens, and sometimes you don't get rewarded for your fruit, but you shape it, you learn it, and if you're willing to persevere through it, you learn where your joy is in working, where you add most value, and how to receive some of that value. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So seeing my personal growth in my story is really cool because now I get to share that with other dudes, other people in general, but like I love working with dudes. And it's just cool to see like someone like it clicks and they go, "Wow, I like this part of work. I'm made to work. Like I enjoy it. And it's producing fruit, providing for my family. Maybe there's an abundance now where I could give to this organization or do that. And I just love seeing that light click in people's lives. So, my story involved a lot of pain, tremendous amount of pain to get here. But now I can relate with many different people in many phases of business. And now I'm working alongside, very wealthy individuals building cool stuff, taking companies public. It doesn't make sense from construction to IPOs. How did I
Uh-huh.
get here? Spaghetti, right?
No, that's wild. How about maybe what's the first company you took public or did an IPO with? Like maybe talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So I started with this organization in February. We have one company that's going public. I'm not allowed to talk about it or it'd
Uh-huh.
be insider trading. And
Yeah.
both you and I would wear orange.
Yeah.
But I'm in process. The group that I work with has done 75 IPOs. They've done SPACs, reverse mergers. They've done a bunch of these types of transactions. I'm on my first one. I'm a baby in this. Prior to this, I was in other types of investment groups, but this is my first at bat for an IPO, and we got one under contract that will be going public in a month or two.
Yeah, that's huge.
It is huge. It's awesome. It's scary, and a lot of emails going back on, like, what does that mean? Or a lot of searches when people are like throwing out like acronyms. They do like investment speak or they
Right.
do industry speak, and I'm like, oh yeah, nodding my head and looking it up what that means. Like
Uh-huh.
I'm figuring it out. Luckily, I'm
Yeah.
partnered with guys who've done it 75 times and they could do it in their sleep.
Yeah.
But part of my job is I got to find these companies. I got to vet these companies. I got to do, basic due diligence on this. And that's how I'm learning. They're throwing me into the fire pit to learn and to grow and bring in them as I need to. Like it's cool. It's exciting. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity that I'm digging into.
For sure. For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe talk to your what's your talk to your what's your role in putting these IPOs together? Like what are they having you do?
Yeah, my job is as the deal scout, right? So my media company, I run a podcast called The Deal Scout. I'm really good at meeting new people, sniffing out opportunities, structuring deals, bringing in my friends. That's my jam across anything that I do, right? So my job is to find private organizations or people that work with these organizations that want to maybe one day go public. So I work with a ton of different investment groups. I'm meeting them, talking with them, sharing with them what we do, look at what they're doing, and they're like sending me deals. Hey, we
Yeah.
just did an A round on this kind of group. We're going through this process. What do you guys need to take a company public? Where we're like, let's start working on the financials. Let's start getting the audits in place. The PCAOB audits are like the biggest hurdles. Let's start
Uh,
putting those in place like early on, because man, when you want to go public, that's going to be the biggest hurdle that could take a lot of time and money. So like I'm working with like Series A, B, C companies, right, that have raised these capital, because once you've raised, your friends and family,
Uh-huh.
you did an angel round. Now you're doing an A round. Once you get to that kind of capital raising, like you've got to start thinking about your early investors. Like how do they make their money? And if you're going to go down this funding path, at one point you're going to need to cash out some of these guys and gals that came in early on. A way to do that is through an acquisition. Someone buys you,
Uh-huh.
or maybe an IPO, right? But they're going to want their money at some point. So IPO is a path for that. So my job is to find these, to start grooming them and helping them prepare for it. And I'm learning, and I buy these huge books from FINRA,
Huh.
Series 79 books and books on investment banking and cap raising, and so I'm putting in the work, man. Wake up early and get to the books.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, there's no substitute for putting in the work, man.
Nah, man.
Getting reps.
Get the reps in. I mean, you
Yes.
work out every day. You know what it is. Show those
Yep.
biceps. You know what you're doing.
I don't want to scare anybody.
They are scary guys. I have seen this guy's muscles. They are massive.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it sounds like your passion really is working with dudes too. So maybe talk a little bit about that. How
Yeah.
did that
So
come to
I'm a
be? Or
dude.
yeah,
I'm a professional dude, man. I've
you
been it
are.
for 42 years.
Wow.
Right. They say 10,000 hours to become like an expert in something.
That's
I
right.
crested that. I don't know how many hours there are in a year. Wait, no, 5,000 to
Yeah.
20,000.
From Rent.
Yeah, I don't know, right?
Such
Divided by
such good
60.
music. Yes.
um, yeah, man, I just have a heart for dudes. I think, I think everybody has in their journey and their story, in some point, especially if you're a Freudian, has daddy issues and mommy issues, right? And growing up, man, I just realized that my daddy had daddy issues and I had some daddy issues. And as I learn about the truth and I learn about some healing and I learn about like why do people do things and I study the the human and the human nature and why they do things. Like I realized that like there's untapped potential in people that's usually hidden behind and covered by fear, insecurities, doubts, self-doubts, and such like that. And as I said earlier, man, I love it when I see someone come alive and I see them working on their gifting. And you and I are working on some projects together
Uh-huh.
to invest more in people and building teams and building leaders and plugging them into these organizations. So like I love watching the people come alive because I know when I was standing on the bridge thinking of swan diving off into the concrete, headbutt in the concrete down below, I knew that I was at the end of my rope and I was scared, man. I was scared, I was hurt, I was anxious, fearful, fill in the blank. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like coming out of that, dude, if you get a taste of freedom, if you get a taste of joy, if you get a taste on the other side of all of that, and you can't unsee it for yourself. You take the red pill, blue pill. Once you see the matrix, once you unsee that, you got to share that freedom with other people. And
Huh?
for me, it happens to be dudes, risk takers, police, fire, military, investors, founders, people who run towards risk and reward, right?
Right.
They tend to be my people, right? Whether it was in sports back in the day or my time in the fire service or my time in investments, my time out of investments when I went broke and I had to work on the back of a moving truck. I get many different aspects of it, but like that it's important to me because I was helped. Someone helped me and I find great joy in helping someone else. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's all. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Well, good for you. You're doing it. Like that's why I'm like linking arms with you. I'm like, wait a second. So what do you do every single day? Because you have an awesome background,
Uh-huh.
but now you've like apply everything you've learned from being an attorney, doing M&A, doing real estate, like whatever you did in real estate, I forget. Right?
Yeah.
You put that all together to build leaders at organizations.
Right.
And that's cool. And that's why I'm like, I want to serve under you and I want to work with you. So it's like all these pieces are fitting together. And like, I just really enjoy it. I need to place all my value add, everything I do around the fact of meeting people, finding out the deal, the opportunity, the value, plugging them in somewhere, or plugging, putting people together, the connectivity, the synchrony, the synergistic.
Synchronicity?
That's it.
There it
Right?
is.
There it is. That's my job. So that's why I structure deals around those things.
How about when you're scouting these deals? Are there certain traits you look for or or certain traits you've seen common among the people that are the right partners for you guys
Yeah,
to work with? Like what do you look for?
for sure. So through my podcast shows and my media company, stage, phase one of the finding the stuff, right? We have the finding and the funding. The finding, how do I find opportunities and what do I look for, man? After interviewing 2,500 people through my podcast shows, some characteristics that I tend to be really attracted to. And it tends to make the deals go much faster and better, right? Transparency and authenticity. I get sniffed that out. And everyone, if they're honest with themselves, they get sniffed that out from a mile away. So
Mhm.
if someone's being honest with me, they're being transparent with me, they're being authentic to me, I just know later on the deals are going to be much better. If we start getting into like conversations and I feel like they're holding back, they're hiding things, they're not being clear or articulate, they can't say what they are doing or what they want, it's going to be a crap show later on.
Uh-huh.
A lot of times I'll interview someone and in 7 minutes I'll know if they're going to be a good partner or a bad partner,
Yeah.
right? Or a good potential or not. I've been wrong before, for sure. But I'm getting much better at sniffing out, hey, this could actually be good. And it might not be good today. They might be 2 years down the line, but let's establish a relationship. Let's talk about where we're going because we could be an ally for each other. And then I make lots of notes and I try to follow up with people like, to keep a relationship alive.
Yeah. Oh, very good. How about the flip? Anything that you obviously just touched on this a little bit, but things you see that are just huge red flags, like
Ooh.
I don't trust this person. Everything might look perfect here, but it just doesn't pass a sniff test. Something my spidey senses are going off here. Like something's not right.
Yeah, any sense of a lie, right? Like if they lack integrity, if there's any sense of like, I just have a bad gut feeling, right? So that's one. If they're shit talkers about like their partners, their
Mm,
wife, their if they're just like if they're putting energy into like telling me that they want to partner with me because they want our money or team and they're telling me that so and so have ripped them off and everybody that they talk to is ripped them off and they're all these crappy partners and that's why they want us. We're the chosen, right? We're going to save them and because we're the best partner that they're ever going to have. I'm like, red flag, dude. You just told me 100 partners that you hated. So that's another one, right? If they could point and they go, look at all our partners. We've made every single one of them rich. We're
mm,
looking for other people that we can, do what we do really well, but we need some capital. We need some resources. Like I go, cool. Ears up. Like let's talk. Could be a good game. Um, Generosity. I'll tell you, like,
mm,
I usually ask people like, what's important to you? Where do you give? Like, where do you, and like, I'll tell you the people who tend to give the most of their time, energy, resource, money, whatever, fill in the blank, they tend to have the most. They tend to
mm-hmm.
have the best hearts. They tend to be the most joy to work with. So like if it's just all about them and they show me pictures of their Ferraris and such like that, and that's cool, man. I like driving in your expensive car. I have a 2006 Dodge Ram diesel that could pull my RV. Like I don't need much, man. Like, but if that's cool to you, that's cool. Tell me about what you're doing beyond that, right? Like, I just want to work with people with depth. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess another red flag. So if there's any sense of lying, any sense of just self-centered narcissism that's all of just about them, I've worked with some people that they tend to fight the most when it's time to write a check with one or two commas in it. I know we're just gonna have a talk about that later on when I've added a crap ton of value and now
Uh-huh.
they have to pony up. Well, I'm like, listen, you live in a mansion. I just saw all your cars and you're having a trouble writing a check to me after I helped you do this. I've been there. I don't want to do that
Uh-huh.
again.
Yeah,
So that's a red flag for me.
for sure. No, very good.
What about you, man? What's a red flag for you? You sniff it out in a conversation, an interview. I think a gazillion is the term you used on how many leaders you've placed, right?
Yeah, I mean, we just have spend so much time talking to people. You touched on this too. When you get that gut feeling, you just even if you don't know it and you can't describe it, just trust your gut because you're usually right. And the times I've gone against my gut because everything else looked right, it proved to be my gut was right in the long run. So when people, I don't know, when people are full of shit and you can just tell, like if you ask questions and they're just full of shit, or you talk about the Ferraris and stuff. I mean, when people have real wealth, they don't need to flaunt it, right? They don't care. They don't care if you know they have a Ferrari. They know.
They know
They
they
don't
have it.
care if you know they have a mansion. They know. They don't need to prove anything to you. And it's so and I learned that actually just super early in life, like early in my working career and practicing law. Like, and even when I played college football, like our coach would say, the great players don't have to tell you they're great. You know it because you watched them. They showed it on the field. I mean, Anthony Edwards for the Timberwolves, like he doesn't need to go around, and he's so much fun to like. If you listen to him talk, he's not bragging. You just saw him dominate the Phoenix Suns. You know it. He doesn't need to tell you about it. Um, and I think great entrepreneurs, great people in sports, in all walks of life, great, fathers and family men. They don't need to tell you how great they are as a dad. It's in the fruit. Look at their kids, or just look at how they are. I mean, when people are constantly talking about themselves, um, it's just a front for. They're almost trying to convince themselves they're great at business or whatever it is. So that's a big one that I've learned over the years. Um, yeah, and when money is the most important motivator to the detriment of everything else, that's always a huge red flag too. Obviously, money is important in business. That's why you're in business. Or the flip side, if people talk about their business and we're just in business to like, what was I listening to? It might have been another podcast or something talking about, I think it was actually a comedian. I think it was actually Chris Rock. I watched his special on Netflix last night and he's just talking about all these businesses. They're like, oh, what's he talking about? Lululemon, which I actually, full disclosure, I love Lululemon. Like my freaking whole wardrobe is basically Lululemon. But he was saying he was walked by a Lululemon store and they said, oh, we're anti-racist, anti, you know, all these like virtue signal things. And he's like, I don't care.
I just
I
want a
just want your
shirt.
shorts. And he's
Got
like,
awesome clothes.
and he's joking. And he's like, I think you're anti-poor people because your stuff's so expensive. And I think the average person would rather than a $100 pair of anti-racist shorts, they'd rather, and this is his joke, which so it's obviously not true. I think people would rather buy a pair of $20 racist shorts than a pair of $100 anti-racist shorts. So it's just when people pretend like they're in business to like do all this other stuff rather than like you can't give back and give money and like give to the community unless you make money.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's why you're in business. And I even like one of my mentors said at you talked about the men's group you were at, we were at this big summit for this business group we're in. And he said, because someone was asking the question about how do you be, philanthropic and all these things as you're growing your business. And his point was you can do that, but you need to focus on the business and winning and being successful. Because until you make the money, nobody cares what you think. And they'd rather have, the person like a college would rather have someone that gives $10 million at the college than gives $100 a month. Like that's the one that makes the most impact. So grow your business, treat your people well, but have the success so that you can actually give back something that's meaningful and people will listen to you, but they're not going to listen to someone that has no money. I mean, again, it's not
That's
all
the
about money,
truth of
but
the
like I'm
matter,
just
though.
giving what?
It's true.
Yeah, it is true.
Right?
And I'm just trying to give the flip of people that are all about money versus not about money at all. I mean, there needs to be a balance, but you can't be just about, being a
Rainbows and
bum and not
butterflies.
working and like it's craziness. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, Zig Ziglar said it like this: money's not that important, but it's pretty close to oxygen. Right? It's like
Right.
it's really damn important. Jesus
Yeah.
talked about it a lot in the Bible. He pulled it
Right.
out of fish's mouths and such like that. And when people were misusing it, he flipped over tables and yelled at them. Right? Like
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
spent a lot of time talking about money and the value of it. But he said, "Where's your heart?" Right?
Right.
So yeah, man, I love what you're doing, Kip. This is a cool show. Where did you guys come up? How did you come up with the feel of this? Like the culture, the capitalist culture. Like, what was it that was important to you as you guys created this show?
Great question. And I knew you'd ask this because you want me to come up with an answer that we can use. So I will say this. I mean, in our business, executive recruiting and dealing with our clients, it is all about culture and core values and finding that fit. And in America today, capitalism is attacked. I mean, in the world, but in America, capitalism is being attacked. Free markets are being attacked. Everything that is the foundation of what it is in the American society is being attacked. But that is our foundation. That is the foundation of our economy, of our businesses. That's why, people are wanting to come to our country is because of capitalism and free markets and limitless opportunity and the American dream, and that you can start with nothing and become a huge success. So we want to foster that, as we're talking to companies, to investment groups, to private equity, to family offices, venture capital, businesses, like how do we create the right culture in our organizations and learning about their organizations, their portfolio companies, and how are they creating these cultures and these strong core values to create success? And how do we do that under this in this capitalist society and try to take back America and showcase to the world and to anyone that's watching this podcast why capitalism is good, not Gordon Gekko, greed is good, but capitalism is good. And if you can create a culture around capitalism and growth and positivity and abundance and treating people right. I mean, that is what we're all about. Like freedom, like all the things that are drawing people to America, that are inspiring people to start businesses in America or in other countries that are capitalist. How can we showcase that and broadcast that to the world and let these younger generations that have grown up and they've been educated and they've been in school saying capitalism's bad, free markets are bad. We need to open up their eyes and also give, let the biggest thing with entrepreneurs is you're just out on an island. You feel like you're all by yourself. Like nobody understands you. Everyone else, everyone else thinks you're crazy. And so we want to bring entrepreneurs together, give a voice to that, and let people know, no, you are not alone. We are, millions strong of small business owners, large business owners, venture capitalists, private equity, family offices, creating wealth, creating businesses, creating jobs, creating opportunity. We are in this together and you are not alone. And to, give some comfort there too.
Yeah, build some cool stuff, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So there you go.
Yeah,
So
man.
we each asked a few questions of each other. How's that good? How's that for a dry run?
Yeah, yeah, really good. Let's fire off with a few more questions to end it out.
Okay.
Any crazy ass question that comes to your brain, you ask and I'll ask. Okay?
Okay.
We'll do rapid fire questions. So whatever question, and we'll do a few rounds of that, and then we'll close out.
Okay. In one paragraph, tell me how you met your wife.
She's one of five daughters. Two of her older sisters were married to two of my dudes, and we were playing
Whoa.
softball for a church youth group, and they tricked me into meeting her. So that's how I met her.
That's awesome.
I proposed to her dressed up as a pirate at a pirate party. I was drunk out of my mind. I wasn't prepared to propose to her, but I had a plastic pirate ring on and it just thought like a really good idea. So I proposed to her and she said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Look at the ring. Of course I'm serious. We've been married almost 15 years."
That's amazing. That's crazy.
Yeah. All right. Good question. Here's my question. Out of all of the teachers you've had in your life, it could be in school, out of school, college, out of college, what was the most memorable teacher and why were they important to you?
I'd say John Gallardi, my college football coach, probably one of the greatest mentors I've ever had. He constantly just gave so many life lessons, and it was in repetition. Like he was, he's the all-time winningest coach ever in any level of college football. And every year he'd tell the same stories, and you hear them over and over again, but it was just the repetition and it was pounded into you of, being good on and off the field. And like I said, modeling that like great players, great people at whatever they are, they don't need to tell you about themselves. Like they show it. So I would for sure say John. He coached till he was almost 90. I mean, it's insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's the most winningest because he
Yeah.
was so old. He did it for so long.
And
Anybody who lives,
he started coaching college football when he was like 28 and coached till he was almost 90. So like no one's ever gonna even touch him.
yeah, dude, awesome. That's such a good
Yeah.
story. All
Yeah.
right, one more round. Go for it.
What's your biggest regret in any area of life?
That's a tough one. Most people will go, "I have no regrets," or "I don't like to look at it. It's a learning lesson." Blah blah blah. That's a bunch of crap. Everyone has some level of regret. I think my regret was for almost a decade. I lived outside of my character, right? And I used the excuse because I had, like one of my heroes fell, right? And I just went, fuck it, right? And I'm just going to do what I want. It was a green light to be whatever I want, do whatever I want. And I was a pretty good kid growing up, but I really turned to unhealthy things that I thought was going to give me joy, life, fulfillment, women, alcohol, drugs, just kind of like that stuff. So like my biggest regret was like not that I know I God will use anything for his glory, but 10 years of my life maybe were just invested in just the wrong thing. And I know for sure, even though like, like if you look back, like I didn't do anything to hurt anybody, everything was consensual, all these kind of things. I just know in my dang heart that I wasn't the dude that some man would want to marry his daughter, right?
Mhm.
So like that's a regret. Like I just lived outside of my character of who I was and my identity and such like that. So like, you know, sorry for making mistakes in the past. Like I truly am now, especially now that I have daughters. So that's a regret, man. Like, you know, but now I could sniff out a dude.
Uh-huh.
I got guns. I know
Yeah.
ninja moves.
Watch out.
All right, question for you. In your day-to-day field, you guys are making money, you're a successful guy, you're working out. When you say I got, a gut instinct, you got a six-pack instinct, I'm sure, right? Like you don't have a gut, let's be honest. But if there's like something that you're, yes, focus business, let's be profitable, let's crush it. You and I have some cool goals, right? To
Mhm.
really uh, build some cool things. What is one of the things that you're looking forward that really drives you to a bigger goal?
Hmm. Very good question. I really want to build. I don't. I feel. I feel like I'm starting this, but like, I love being a leader, but I want to build leaders. You know what I mean? Like within my company, but just in life, I want to build other leaders and give them the tools. I mean, all the stuff that have seeked out. Like, I want to be able to give that to people and help people become leaders and then just sit back and just watch. I mean, and just watch like the great stuff that they do and like not take credit for it, but just be like, I had a part in like making Joe or Kenzie or Stephanie or Christian or whoever just a truly great leader. That's, I don't know if that really answers your question, but that's the first
For
thing that came
sure.
to mind.
For sure. Super cool.
Yeah.
Super cool, man. All right, man. Close this out.
Sweet. So Josh, thanks for being with us here today. This is awesome. It was great to get to know you and hear your story. And yeah, thanks for being authentic and honest with us and just sharing your story. I think you had a ton of value here. I think people have learned a lot. I'm sure people will reach out to you after this. How can people get in touch with you? What socials? What's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to learn more or do deals with you?
Yeah, appreciate you asking that. I'm not on Facebook, not on Twitter, not on Instagram. I don't have enough self control to be on any of those platforms. You can find me on LinkedIn. So if you type in like Joshua Bruce Wilson, that's my middle name, named after my pops, you can find me and see what I'm up to. It's a good way to connect with me. And then my cell phone is 352-274-4500. A lot of times guys will like text me and they'll be like, hey dude, I'm struggling. I need a guy to talk with or whatever. And I'll take a, quick time to chat with them, talk them off the ledge, or pray with them, or introduce them some of my buddies who are more qualified to walk men through life issues. But yeah, you could get a hold of me that way too, man. But I appreciate you having me on the show, and I know that we did this as a dry run to get our show up and running, our next show that we're building.
Uh-huh.
But I think that there was some gold in there that we'll probably end up using, Kip.
Dude, that's sick. That's awesome. This was so much fun. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, we'll see you, everybody.
Peace.